Hello everyone, Pao here again, and this is book number 4 out of the 52 book challenge. I'm gonna read 52 books within a span of a year, or one book a week. So today's book of choice is "The Obstacle Is the Way" by Ryan Holiday. So I'll share my screen. Yeah. So this was a quite a shorter read compared to the 48 Laws of Power, but very interesting, and I learned a lot, especially about Stoicism. I think this is a good book if ever you wanted to get an introduction to Stoicism. So The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday. I give to you a book summary, The Timeless Art of Turning Trials into Triumph. So again, I start first by summarizing the key takeaways. So there's gonna be 5 parts of this summary. Stoicism is a way, what impedes us empowers us, and so on and so forth. So I'll go through them one by one, and hopefully you'll learn something from these key takeaways that I have, right? So key takeaway number 1 is Stoicism as a way of life. So basically, his thinking is the obstacle is the way. Basically, it's an intro to Stoicism. One of the famous Stoics in our time or in history is Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca. So these guys, when you search Stoicism, these are the three uh, people who usually come out, and the book discusses a lot of examples particular to Marcus Aurelius. So what is Stoicism? So for me, after reading the book, I think Stoicism, to my understanding, is a philosophy that although we may not control what happens to our life, we are in control of how we react to each situation. So I think it's a mindset wherein the day-to-day activities, the day-to-day experiences that we have in our lives, we may not control it, but it's within our control on how we react to it, how we respond to it, and how we feel about it. So more of stoicism is having that leveled mindset in terms of accepting each and every experience and controlling your emotions. In the book, there are 3 core ideas that Ryan highlighted, which is perception, action, and will, which I'll go through it one by one again. So, key takeaway number 2, what impedes us empowers us. Obstacles are seen as an opportunity to develop virtues, negative into positive. So, haven't we always been in a situation wherein we feel like we have so much bad luck, we feel like we're in a rut, we feel like one bad thing after the other, right? But fast forward, after you overcome obstacle after obstacle, in hindsight, when you look back, you realize that those were necessary occurrences, those were necessary experiences that you had to undergo to build the character that you have today. It's like a character building activity. Although during that point in time, it felt really frustrating, right? That why is this bad luck happening to me? Well, in fact, in hindsight, it actually empowers us. It actually strengthens our character. And in hindsight, we realize that these experiences needed to happen. It's a necessary evil, as you may say. For all of the hardships, it was necessary for you to become the person you are today. So one of the thinking that he portrayed there is good fortune can be generated from misfortune. So, for example, if you had the stoic mindset, right, when the pandemic happened, for sure a lot of people here were affected by the pandemic. No one in the world expected this to happen, right? But rather than um, get stuck in terms of you're sulking over what already happened, it can actually you can actually view it as an opportunity to pivot your business, your career, and so on and so forth, right? And we've seen a lot of people, despite having negatively impacted, had a negative experience because of the pandemic, they thought of ways innovative enough on how they can actually adapt to the current environment and created good fortune out of the misfortune that occurred. the global pandemic, right? In the book, there was even an example given about a mischievous king and a boulder. So there was this king. He was quite mischievous, and what he did is he put a boulder that blocked the pathway to the village, right? So because of this boulder, a lot of workers, a lot of people, hundreds of people stopped when seeing that boulder and simply turned back and went back to the village that they're from. Until there's this one young individual, young person, young man who looked at the boulder, studied it, and then rather than simply giving up and turning back, he looked for, his environment. What are the available material in his environment? And, he used it. Uh, he used, I think, a tree. He used a branch of wood to actually, roll the boulder over. So, to his surprise, when he was able to finally remove the boulder from the road, there was actually a bag full of gold. So, I think the moral of the story is, we in life we can encounter challenges, obstacles after obstacles. And it's a matter of how do we respond to these obstacles. And we never know if ever we're able to overcome these obstacles, we can actually benefit from it. It's an opportunity for us to practice our virtues of patience, of creativity, of being out of the box thinker. And because of these obstacles, we are able to develop more as a person, which would benefit us in the long run. All right. So what impedes us empowers us. Not necessarily mean that, if we encounter obstacles, automatically it's a negative effect to us. We can actually view it as an opportunity to learn and to grow as an individual. So it actually empowers us. The obstacle in the path may be the way. The obstacle in the path is the path, right? And the third takeaway is perception. What matters is not how these obstacles are, but how we see them. So again, the first nugget of wisdom I think was given or highlighted in the book was really about perception, the way we view things. We decide what to make out of each event. Like I mentioned earlier, it's a matter of perspective. Any experience that may happen in your life, it's up to you on how you view it. You may not control the things that happen in your life, but you're in full control on how you feel and how you respond to each and every experience. So we decide what to make out of each event. The second one is be objective. Try to detach yourself from the problem as if it's not you, a third person point of view. Haven't we all encountered, a close friend talking to you, asking for your perspective or your opinion about a certain struggle or challenge that he or she is currently undergoing, right? Um, Whenever your friend gives a problem, if haven't you always felt that you know the answer, right? You're able to give your advice, you're able to help your friend come up with the best solution for him or her. However, when that same problem is something that you experience, you may know already what to do, but you hesitate to do it, right? Mainly because you're too emotionally attached, perhaps, or you're too close to the problem that you're blinded by the situation. So, one of the things that Ryan mentioned in the book is try to view the problem from a third person point of view. This puts the objectivity, it removes and detaches you from that problem or situation, and you're able to think with a leveled mindset or clearer mindset. And in effect, you'll be able to make the better decision, right? And the third one is remember that this is not your life, but only a moment in your life. So I remember, haven't we all been there? We're in, for example, if we were way back in high school or way back in college, when we felt like the world revolved around our grades, our studies. But in fact, failure mark in a certain subject does not determine your success in life, right? So similar to this mindset, each and every day we experience, triumph, success, and downfalls as well. The way to view it is not as a singular moment that would define your entire life, right? Simply looking at it as if it's only a moment in your life, there's still an opportunity for you to recover. So don't get overly depressed if something does not go your way or if something happens. Uh, Rather than view it as the main determining factor of your life, realize that it's only one part, one moment of your life, and you have many chances to actually do better perhaps next time, right? So one of the good quotes here was, where one person sees crisis, another sees opportunity. When one is blinded by success, another sees reality with ruthless objectivity. When one loses control of their emotion, another remains calm. So again, it's about perspective, right? What may be viewed as a crisis to one person, you can actually view it as an opportunity to pivot, to change, to actually create a new revenue stream or pivot your career, right? And it's about having that clear mindset, leveled mindset, being objective about it so that you can make a clear decision or the best decision moving forward. Be calm under pressure and view it as only a moment in your life and not, you know, the determinant of your entire life, if you may say. The fourth key takeaway is action. So I mentioned perception, right? The second one is action. Think progress, not perfection. So haven't we always been in that position wherein, we thought about things, what can happen, and so on and so forth. We wanted to start that business. We wanted to start that new career. We wanted to take up further studies. But it always gets delayed, and it never happens. 10 years down the road, we realize it's too late, and we regret, right? That's the big regret. One of the things that are taught in the book is we often get paralyzed by inaction because the problem is too big, right? The fear of change, the fear of uncertainty, the fear of failing, right? So we get intimidated. In effect, we're paralyzed to make any action, to make any decision, especially if we view the problem as too big, right? So one of the key takeaways here is whenever you're encountered with a problem, with a decision that you need to make, it's not about viewing it as a whole, but if ever you can break it down into smaller steps, right? So if you have a major deadline, for example, that you need to do, rather than get overwhelmed by so much things that you need to do, you got to break it down into steps. What is the first thing that you can focus on doing now? Do well at it and focus on execution and moving forward, right? I think the biggest challenge that most people encounter is, apart from being paralyzed due to the fear of failing, due to the ambiguity or the largeness of the problem, you break it down and have that level of mindset wherein you think progress, not perfection. So a lot of people, they try to perfect everything on their first pass, right? Studies show that, there's a group A and group B. All of them were given a task to, for example, make a pot, a vase. So one group was given the opportunity to take as much as they can, maybe 3 months, to create a vase, the perfect vase, but they only get one chance. The second group were given the same task to create the best vase, for example. However, they could make multiple times, fail multiple times. And when the results came after 3 months, for example, um, the group that were able to iterate, to do it multiple times, had a better model of a vase versus one group that had only one shot to create the perfect vase, right? So what does this mean? Basically, it's not about perfection. Over time, through repetition, through trial and error, you tweak your areas for improvement, and you're able to learn from your past mistakes. And hence the importance of thinking progress rather than perfection. So one step forward is better than no step, right, at all. So think of it like an NBA championship. The road to a championship is taking it one game at a time, right? If LeBron James and the Lakers only had the, only thought about the championship, that's the goal in mind, but they shouldn't lose sight of what's in front of them now. Taking one game at a time, making sure that they put in the points, they put in the defense, and thinking long term, like having an end goal in mind, but never forgetting that what and overcoming what's in front of them, the obstacle that's in front of them. So one of the good quotes here is, we often assume that the world moves at our leisure. We delay when we should initiate. We jog when we should be running, or better yet, sprinting. We get shocked when the opportunity does not come. So again, it's about acting. It's about taking action, being responsible for your actions, and actually, you know, taking a step forward, rather than get paralyzed by inaction because the problem is too big. Might as well try, and don't be afraid to fail. As long progress is always better than perfection, basically. So don't get shocked, when 10 years down the line, you missed out on a huge opportunity, mainly because when you think back, it's about not having that courage to take a step forward, right? So we talked about perception, we talked about action. The fifth one, and the last one, is will. The will to accept things you cannot change, and change things you can. So I think one of the good takeaways here is the art of acquiescence, right? So basically, it says that the ability to accept things that are not in your control. Haven't we always been in that situation wherein we feel so stressed, we feel so pressured, we feel so our heart palpitates, our heart is nervous, but when you think about it, the problem, you realize that there are certain things that are out of your control, right? So rather than spend your energy, or your spend time rather, to think about things that you can't change, or worry about things you can't change, the better mindset is to think about the things that you can control. And amongst the things that you can control, how can you execute on those simple tasks, right? How can you control, how can you take action in controlling those things you can control, or that are within your control, to have it in your advantage. I also like this word, right? Amor fati. It means the love of faith. So the love of faith rather. So love everything that happens. It's not enough to accept, but we must love everything that happens. So uh, it's a great phrase because, like I mentioned earlier, we may not control the things that happen in our life, and to him, Stoicism, it's not about simply, accepting it, but we must love everything that happens. We must view it as something like a necessary step that needs to occur, regardless if it's negative or positive. It's a matter of, a stepping stone to getting us to where we want to be, right? So once you accept this, once you learn to appreciate each and every thing that happens into your life, you'll have more control in terms of the outcome of your life. So last thing I highlighted here is persistence. Persistence is not equals to perseverance. So persistence is more on energy. However, perseverance is more of endurance, right? So persistence is you constantly try, without hoping, without losing energy of actually trying. But perseverance is more on endurance, being able to withstand time, be consistent at it, put in the work, um, and do it day in and day out, right? So the quote here is, we don't get to choose what happens to us again, but we always choose how we feel about it. So again, rather than worry about all the things that can go wrong, try to break it down in terms of what are the things that are out of your control, and don't worry about it. Be conscious of it, but don't overly worry about it, but rather identify what are the things that are within your control, and what are the things that you can do to actually um, put it to your advantage, right? So with that, summarizing the key takeaways. So Stoicism as a way of life, it's about having that mindset of, we may not control the things that happen to our day-to-day lives, but we are in full control of how we feel or how we respond to it, right? It's about having that mindset of acceptance, that it's part of it, and it's part of the journey of learning, of growing, and acceptance. Rather, not just simply accepting it, but loving each and every experience that we have in our lives, regardless if it's negative or positive, and having that mindset that we can actually turn a misfortune into something of good fortune. The second one is, what impedes us empowers us. So again, we're bound to encounter obstacles in our lives, right? But rather than view it as a blocker or something that derails our path, we can actually view it as an opportunity to learn, to grow, to develop our virtues, and actually build our character to be stronger, to actually have that greater resolve, and actually propel us to success. Third one is perception. So what what matters is not how these obstacles are, but how we see them. Again, it's about viewing each and every situation objectively, right? So you try to detach yourself from the actual problem and analyze the problem from a third person point of view. It's a matter of perspective. Again, it goes back to the thinking that you may not control what happens, but you can control your emotions, your feelings, and think objectively of how you can do best out of the situation you're currently in. Part four is action. Again, always thinking progress, not perfection, rather than getting paralyzed or having that fear of failure. Have that mindset of starting now, trying, failing, and learning and developing. And as you go along, perfection will follow, the results rather will follow. And the last one is the will. So having that strength in mind to accept things that you cannot change and change things that you can. So basically having that will, that endurance to actually put in the work day in and day out, and not worrying about the results, but having that strength in character and will. So with that, that's the obstacle is the way, the timeless art of turning trials into triumph. I think I love the book. It's quite long, but it's summarized into 5 key takeaways. So with that, thank you again for listening in. That's book number 4. Stay tuned to the 5th book next week. And if you like the content, there's a lot of other book summaries I've posted on YouTube. Please feel free to like and subscribe. Paulo Balinas in YouTube. Thanks, and see you again next week. Bye.